and welcome to the Regeneration. This is the Co-Pilot podcast, which has been born from the OMFG We Need a Name cast. And I'd like to be the first to say, welcome back, Mr. Allen. It was clever, that, wasn't it? Because it's from The Flash, which is the show we took.
Who else is going to say it as well?
How are you?
Yeah, it's nice. I'm good. It's nice to be back. We've got a name now.
Yeah, finally.
It only took us, what, like 7 episodes, 6 of which are actually on the internet.
Oh yeah, there was the Lost episode.
And like a 4-month break to finally, what do we want to call it?
Yeah, well, and then we came up with a new format, didn't we? So we're going to be talking about. See, this is a very clever title that we've come up with, the Co-Pilot podcast, because because there's 2 of us, and Pilot because we are going to be talking about pilot shows, the pilot episode, of shows what we like or might not like. It could be something that neither of us have seen before.
Yeah, which isn't going to happen for like the foreseeable future while we run through all the shows that we know are good. Actually, no.
But
like,
yeah,
looking at the list, like Supergirl's on there, and neither of us have seen that yet.
Is it out yet?
The pilot's out, but like
Okay.
the show hasn't released, so there's no point talking about it unless you want to like just admit to watching stuff illegally.
Which we never ever do.
And well, certainly don't endorse. Maybe do.
Moving on. What's our first show we're going to talk about, Rich? And this is one of your choosing, so why don't you introduce it?
Well, the first show that we're going to talk about on the new Co-Pilots podcast is The Flash.
I was surprised because I wasn't a massive fan of Flash Gordon, and it was quite a different direction. No Brian Blessed this time, no Adam Jones.
No, Mark Hamill still makes an appearance though, but not in the pilot episode. So what's the point?
So yeah, go on then. What do you think? Why did you choose this as the inaugural Co-Pilot pilot podcast show pilot?
Well, it's mostly because I know you don't like Arrow. Which because you don't like Arrow,
like Arrow,
and then subsequently didn't watch Arrow, you missed the introduction of the Flash. So this is something that I feel that you would never, like, not fully have ever picked up on, had I not been like, hey man, you know we're doing a podcast, you should definitely watch the Flash. Okay, bye.
So all this entire creation of the podcast is a ruse to get me to watch the Flash. When we start playing the Co-Pilot game show podcast, I imagine the first episode is going to be Fallout 3, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, it is.
Right, go on then. So what happens in the Flash? What is the Flash all about?
Well, it's about Barry Allen, who maybe gets struck by lightning.
First point, I don't believe that Barry is a popular name at this current moment in time.
Not yet. It will be. Eventually.
In 2024. Ooh.
Oh, foreboding and stuff. Yeah. Like, it's weird because I don't know if it's short for anything. Like, I've never actually...
Or
never
Barry,
thought...
I don't think so.
But yeah, so it starts off with Barry as a 12-year-old, maybe younger.
I think he's 11 actually. So there.
Well, that's fair enough. You've watched it more recently than I have.
Literally, well, I've just spent the last hour watching it. But anyway, yeah. So he's a child, and he experiences parental death.
Done by a speedster, obviously. But no one believes
don't know.
Because, you know, kids.
No one believes him because, kids.
Well, they make stuff up, and like, lightning, and like people that can run past like the speed of sound. No one really believes that until Barry becomes the Flash, in which case they're kind of a bit like, maybe this isn't bullshit.
Yeah. So then we skip forward to
it's
a
6 months later, I think. Oh no,
6 months, 14 years.
I'm thinking of the time from when he gets struck by lightning to him not being in a
I
coma
see.
anymore.
Okay, well, that's 9 months.
It skips
anyway.
forward about. It must be in his early 20s.
Well, yeah, I think they say like 14 years or something. So he's 25-ish now,
Yeah.
and he's working with the police. He's a forensic assistant, isn't he, Rich?
Yes.
You can tell I've watched this recently.
Yeah. Or that you're reading the synopsis.
I'm not actually. I'm reading the page worth of notes that I made. So if I just pick up from there, he chases a
compulsively
thief.
Late.
Yeah. Oh God, I didn't even pick up on that.
Well, no, it's something.
Of course,
It's something that they mention in like later episodes. That I think it's the first. There's a crossover between Flash and Arrow, and Arrow just said like, how can you have super speed and still be late? And it's just like it's one of those sort of.
That
like,
is exactly.
really
If you
small
had
but
super
quite
speed,
great things.
if you had superpowers, you would still be late.
Yes.
But one thing I will say, so then there's a disaster in the city. He's got an interest in physics and science, hasn't he? So there's it looks like a large hadron collider. Is that essentially what it is, or like a particle accelerator or something?
It's a particle accelerator, yeah. And
so that blows
like,
up.
In his first, when you see him in Arrow, he's there and he's like so super hyped for it. He's like, it's all he like, not all he talks about, but a large part of it is what he talks about. And he's just like, man, I'm because at the time he wasn't gonna go and be there, but then I can't remember. He goes to the opening, doesn't he?
Yeah, with Iris, who is has been his best friend since he was a child.
Yes.
Crucially, not his girlfriend though, although he wants her to be.
He definitely does. And yeah, so then it explodes, as particle accelerators do, and then it causes the Flash.
Yeah, he dies. Apparently, he seems to die in the hospital. He wakes up, having been in a coma.
Star Labs.
Now I got confused straight away because I wasn't sure what city this was set in, because I know of three. Well, now I know of 3 cities in the DC universe. I know of Gotham, obviously, and then I think it's Star City, isn't it, for Arrow?
Yeah.
And this one is Central City.
Yeah.
Is it?
Yeah. I think you've forgotten one that you should probably have heard of before.
Oh, and Metropolis.
Yep.
That one as well.
And Coast City as well.
I don't know where that one is.
That's where Hal Jordan's from. So not.
Oh, okay.
Like it's a place in the TV universe as well.
Right. Okay. So yeah. This is I've noticed something just going through all basically what happens up to his point of gaining the powers and becoming the Flash. He is in a coma for 9 months. And I think that's significant because the character of the Flash is born of similar circumstance of his mother's death, and once he experiences that, he is then effectively unconscious and developing for 9 months. So it is pretty much he is metaphorically, but literally born again.
That must be where the term metahuman comes from.
Meta.
Yeah.
I didn't understand. Isn't meta sort of beyond the point of the text, isn't it? It's when a text knows it is a text. If you see what I mean.
Maybe it's not referring to text. Maybe it's referring to their genetics and how they are now superheroes or villains.
Yeah.
Depending on if you're part of Team Flash or not. Which it seems to be the case. There's no like borderline. It's you're on Team Flash or you're a bad guy. Like it's like Sith and Jedi all over again. And
So then we see him sort of experimenting with his powers, and he has a little dabble with it. He tries to stop a crime, and he sees the bank robber and that. But the thing that occurred to me is that Marvel haven't really done this particularly well. But the superpowers look ridiculously fun. Like when he's just running around, he runs into the back of that van, and he's, oh wow, that actually looks pretty fun. I wouldn't mind giving that a go.
It's lucky there's a van there, filled with mattresses, conveniently. It
really he didn't burst through into the cab or anything.
You know, it reminded me of the first time Peter Parker in the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man discovers that he can like shoot webs, and it's just that scene where he's like swinging through New York, just like screaming. It's just like that's what it reminded me of.
Well, it's funny you mentioned Spider-Man because I was noting this down as I was watching it. I was just thinking, he pretty much is. From what it seems to me, is DC Spider-Man, because he has a mysterious parental death, like Spider-Man. His parents turn out to be spies and all that sort of stuff. He has a keen interest in physics and science and that sort of thing. He's relatively young, and he's got these relationship goals.
His mentor's sort of like a kooky scientist.
Yeah, and he has the father figure in Flash. It's Joe, who is the. Is he the chief? He's not the chief.
No, he's not. He's just a detective.
Yeah, okay. And then it's similar with Uncle Ben. So I obviously up to now Joe isn't dead, but I don't know. Maybe that happens. But yeah, there are a lot of comparisons to draw with Spider-Man there.
Yeah.
Which is no problem really. I mean, the Flash. I played Injustice on my phone for a long time last year, and the Flash was one of my favourite characters to play as. So
I think what's really nice is that as DC shows go,
it's very light-hearted.
There's Gotham, which is quite dark. Then Arrow, which is it's about a guy who kind of murders people.
Yeah.
And then you've got Flash, who's just like, I'm really happy that I've got super speed. If bad guys could just be nice and just go down without a fight, and maybe we'll lock them in the particle accelerator and it will all be fine. Like that can never go wrong.
This is the thing. There was that was one of the first things I noticed. It's like even the color palettes are light. Even the things at the night in the night scenes, they're still fairly bright because of the lightning that he creates as he runs and that sort of thing. But there was a moment like right at the start where he identifies the tread of the tire, and it does that sort of the Sherlock factor of like it shows sort of measurements and numbers and words on screen sort of show how his mind is working for that. Yeah. I thought that was a nice touch.
And that very quick that is a very unique thing because if I remember rightly, that never happens.
You can't have very unique. Sorry, you can say again.
Like that that never repeats. That never happens again.
Oh really? I thought that would be sort of a motif that carried on through the show. But I suppose maybe they thought it was too derivative. Quickly becomes
like the character that other people are helping. In like that sort of like he's got his team.
Yeah.
Who like are on comms, and he just focuses on going very fast and not running into things.
Yeah. I mean, another thing that I drew a comparison. Another comparison with Spider-Man and a lot of other superhero things is. The superheroes, they seem not to get the costume right the first time they go out. So there's the scene where he's testing out his powers on the airfield, seeing how fast he can go, and he looks like Kick-Ass gone wrong. And then there's obviously Spider-Man has that going for him as well. Batman, he takes a while to get the proper Batsuit on. Daredevil, it takes him an entire series to get his suit. But I think it's a nice touch. Well, he's the exception.
To be fair, even Superman's costume is a hood. It's not hard to get right. Oh, I went to the shop and I bought a hoodie. It's green. I guess I'll just be the Green Arrow then.
So we'll shift back to the plot of what happens after that. So he chases this bank robber. They have a showdown, and they use a plot device from one of the Superman films. I can't remember which one it is. There's the hurricanes going on, and I was watching it going, because he's standing there, he's contemplating, he's like, how the hell am I going to stop this hurricane? And I jokingly to myself thought, oh, you could do a Superman and like run round it the opposite way. And then he literally said, what if I run round it the opposite way? I was like, oh, okay. And then he does.
It seems it's very obvious but effective.
Oh yeah, I don't doubt that it clearly it works, but I just thought I'm not sure if it was, a deliberate homage saying, hey, this was cool, remember when this was a thing, or if it was just like, yeah, that'll do. But
I think it's sort of like yeah, that'll do, because I feel like if you're trying to stop a hurricane and you got super speed, the only thing your brain's going to do is like, wind's fast, I'm fast. Maybe if I go other fast, the hurricane will just
if I go other
cease.
way faster. I'm sure, I mean, it's never been attempted to my knowledge, but I'm sure that if scientists decided they needed to stop a hurricane, what you would do was get something to orbit the the hurricane the opposite way but faster. I mean, it's worked twice on screens now, so it must actually work.
Well, I mean, I think really what they should do is take the big particle accelerator in whatever place in Europe it is, in Sweden, Switzerland?
Yeah, Switzerland.
Wherever it is, and just make it blow up and just see what happens. Because it'll probably be totally fine. And then we'll get superheroes, and we won't need TV shows anymore.
I'm not sure that in real life people would dress up in the fancy costumes, though. I think people would just be sort of like cool with it.
No, because I can't remember. In the first episode, does he figure out that he can do the thing like where he just vibrates his face really fast?
I don't think so. There was a moment where his hand starts to vibrate, and he's sort of going, "What the hell?" But that's during the sort of I don't know what's happening.
His face and his voice, which means wearing the red suit doesn't really add much to like disguising his identity. I suppose it might take focus to do both those things.
Yeah.
And run really fast.
I mean, yeah, it's definitely the most fun looking suit.
The thing, right, that I've noticed is that he doesn't set off any speed cameras.
Oh, yeah.
A little part of me is annoyed by that. Or maybe Central City is just one of those places that's kind of like, where are any speed cameras?
They don't have speed cameras. We don't need speed cameras because, like New York, you can't get up any speed because there's so much traffic.
Yeah. Which is lucky, because it means that when people get hit by cars, the Flash can just sort of zip through them and like jump over and grab them on their way down.
Well, he does exactly that. He does exactly that at the end of the episode, doesn't he?
Yeah.
So then there's he finishes the fight, proves himself as the hero. He goes to see his dad. Has a lovely little father and son moment. With, I'm the sucker for those. But it ends with the affirmation of name, which is, if you look back at Daredevil, that he took a long time for him to come up with the name of him to say, and put on the suit and then say, I am Daredevil. It took him the entire series.
Yeah.
But it's a common event with superheroes that once they're happy with what they've done, the affirmation of that. So it is the I am Batman moment. Who am I? I'm Spider-Man from the Tobey Maguire thing, that sort of thing.
Yeah, it's the same.
Which is nice.
It's nice that happens so quickly, because in a lot of I've noticed more so a lot in DC. Like, because for some reason in DC, you basically pick your own name, and like you have to identify as that. Whereas in Marvel, it's very much, oh, so you're this guy. Like, you get given a name by the media and you just sort of go, I'll do.
Or Bruce Campbell.
Yeah. And then, but in, Arrow, because I can specifically really relate Arrow and Flash together, and they were very different, in that it's start of season 4 for Arrow now.
Yeah.
And he's only just started calling himself the Green Arrow.
Oh, really? Was he calling himself Arrow beforehand?
He was Arrow for seasons 2 and 3.
Okay.
But in season 1, he was the Hood.
Oh, right. Okay. What, the Thunderbirds villain?
Yeah, it was weird. There was all these live-action characters and a puppet. It was really strange.
A bald racist puppet.
Yeah, I don't really know how they got away with that, and no one noticed. And they they were like, "Oh, maybe we should recast him. We'll just get Stephen Amell to come in and just do it. It'll be fine."
Christ, it's the 90s. You can get away with anything. I'm gonna jump to the slight negative sides of the Flash, because I did enjoy it, and I enjoyed it a lot more than I enjoyed the pilot of Arrow. But again, I have the same problem, which I remember I told you about it once I'd watched the Arrow pilot. Just the writing, which I mean, I struggle criticizing something for a writer for its writing unless it's particularly bad, because it's hard. It's really hard to write decent characters.
It's hard to get like
length,
authentic
that
dialogue.
Sort of thing. This is my main point. So with
these words that don't make sense, where it's like, I got struck by lightning and I didn't die.
No, it's not even that. It's the human to human interaction. So I've noted this down. The writing was very much like the pilot of Arrow, where there's a line that particularly stuck with me. I can remember this, like it was a year ago since I watched Arrow, but there's a line where someone literally turns around and says, "Oh, you always trying to save the world," and I was like, "Oh, that's really lazy writing." But with Flash, there were a few points where the characters seemed to almost go, "I am so and so, and this is how I am feeling." So there was an example with Caitlin.
Said, I'm pretty sure she very quickly mentions that Ronnie died.
Oh, my fiance died. It's like, he's like, "Hey, you look a bit down. What's wrong?" And she goes, "Oh, well, 9 months ago there was an explosion. All my research got blown up, and my fiance died. So I am sad." And then again, Joe.
What they don't mention at that point, they don't mention that like Ronnie ran into the particle accelerator to try and turn it off. And that's why he died.
So Ronnie would be her fiance.
He was a hero. It's just he's dead, isn't he?
Okay. Well, I suppose for a pilot, I don't know. It didn't
I've
feel.
noticed you have to really
real.
quickly establish characters.
Yeah, and particularly with pilots as well, because you're trying to get your series off the ground. So it must be, very difficult to convincingly say, "Look, this is this character. This is their motivation." That
but
sort
it's
of
weird,
thing. But
all those characters got used multiple times in Arrow. Well, Barry was in 2 episodes. Caitlin and Cisco were in 3 or 4, I think. And so they were established characters. But obviously, that was before the pilot accelerator, kind of. No, because a couple of episodes were after that, and they could have maybe mentioned that in Flash. But I guess Flash they might have started filming it actually. I don't know. But
for people like me who haven't really watched Arrow, they are completely new characters.
You'd have to re-establish those characters a bit.
Yeah, exactly. Until you said, "Oh, these people turn up in the Flash." In Arrow, I had absolutely no idea. But there was another example. Joe did the same thing, which was a shame because I was really liking him, and then he just
honestly,
pretty much
if you keep watching it, he's such a great character.
He just up and went, "I believe your dad killed your mum. And you need to get over this, and you need to move on, and you need to blah blah blah." And that was another sort of grinding moment.
I can't remember. Does he find out in the first episode that Barry's the Flash? So I'm pretty sure he finds out very early on, if not in the first episode.
Yeah, he does, because he sees him and he sort of gives him a little shake in the head when he's about to run around the hurricane. He's like, "No, don't do it, don't do it." You see, acting. I should win an Oscar.
For what?
For that performance, it was sensational.
Maybe. Let's just move past it. I know what you mean, but I because like outside of the writing, like the visuals, like
the visuals
are,
spectacular,
like, top quality. Like they do, like TV shows
the effect
now
of him running
so much for like, especially considering like. I mean, these are probably quite big budget ones because DC.
Yeah, it must have been. It must have been fairly big.
So good, especially if you compare them to like, I don't know, say the old Batman TV show.
What, the Adam West one?
Yeah, which has no because they were just using practical effects.
That's because that was all that was available.
Half of like these TV shows are CG.
Yeah, that is true.
But
I mean,
but it's CG done well and right.
Yeah, it enhances the drama. It doesn't ever get in the way. You know, it doesn't take you. There's a you know, there's not really very many moments, and you go, oh well, that's clearly fake, and it takes you out of the moment. You're sort of the effects of him running. I thought they were done particularly well.
Yeah, and what I like is that they can, especially like you know the one where it like zooms up above the city and you just see the streak of lightning where it's going.
Yeah.
That's such a good way to just move between scenes. To just go, oh, we're over here now.
Yeah.
Whereas in like some other shows, it can be really jarring because you have like this one quick clip of them traveling, and you're like, and we're there. But with the Flash, it's just like, oh no, like that's real time. He's just run across there. It's fine.
I did like the little Arrow cameo actually, even though I didn't particularly get on with it. It's nice to have that interconnectivity.
Yeah.
Between the shows.
But the best like thing about that whole cameo is that in the Arrow episode, before Arrow met Flash, like Arrow didn't wear a mask; he just wore eye makeup. And then Barry Allen, while he was there, as like you've been pretty good to me. Cheers for telling me your secret identity. Here's a way to keep it a bit more secret, and made him that mask.
Oh, I see.
So that's why it's like, because I guess otherwise you just see Arrow and you're like, oh, that's great. Where's he going to get a mask from? But then like, so you get, it's really like the way that they do the crossovers and stuff is really cool.
Yeah.
Because they do play on a lot of the fact that Arrow's a bit darker than Flash. In the way that like Arrow coming to Central City and being all like, I'm a vigilante, makes everyone kind of go, mate, you kind of shot someone with an arrow. And even Barry's a bit like, mate, this is my city, you can't do that here. And then when Barry goes over to Starling, he's just like, man, Starling's really messed up, man. Like, what's going on?
And then the both of them go to Gotham and they're just shell-shocked. Like, what?
How is this show still on the air? That's the first question both of them asked. Just like,
that's really harsh.
How have you got Jim, please?
That's harsh, but it's deserved because that show could have been amazing, and it was expletive deleted.
Season 2's slightly better.
Well, maybe we'll get onto Gotham. I think we should have a Christmas special of Gotham because it was so bad.
Yeah. I don't
Edward,
get into it,
you and your riddles.
I know exactly why it's bad as well. But
yeah, because it was bad.
More importantly, Flash has a really good roster of villains as well.
Oh, does it?
Not specifically in like the first episode, but although like the Whirlwind guy is pretty good as like a starting boss.
Yeah, he was quite cool. A starting boss. You can tell we play games.
Yeah, but like then you get further into it and you get stuff like Captain Cold, who's great.
That is the worst name.
Yeah.
That is worse than Beta Ray Bill.
But it's Wentworth Miller.
I fully retract my statement.
Which is great because like it's Wentworth Miller and the other guy who was in Prison Break, and it's the first time they've been on screen together for ages.
Oh really? Oh, that's quite cool.
And they're both going to be in Legends of Tomorrow when that comes out eventually, and we will definitely talk about that because I am so hyped for that show.
Okay. So I don't know if I'll carry on with the Flash because I get quite intimidated by big American shows like the 22, 24 episode ones. They kind
24.
Is it 24?
Yeah, it's 24.
I don't know. There's something about, but you know, maybe I will carry on watching. I enjoyed it. It didn't grab me quite in the way that other shows have done, but I definitely enjoyed it a lot more than I enjoyed Arrow. And it has made me think maybe I will give Arrow another chance. But then that's, you know, just for the first two series, that's like 40 something episodes, which is a long
48
time.
episodes, which is 48 hours of. I guess I'm lucky that I was in the point I picked up Flash.
From the get-go, wasn't it?
From get-go, yeah. Because I watched the whole first series of Arrow, and then season 2 of Arrow started. They introduced the Flash. By the end of series 3, I saw the trailer of Flash and was like, I'm done. I'm in. Like, that was it. I saw that trailer and was like, man, that's going to be good.
I mean, you know, over the past few years, you know, you have talked about Arrow a lot, and there have been points where you've told me like things that have happened in the show that I thought actually that does sound really cool. But to get to those points, it's like you have to go through a lot of other episodes.
What I'll do is I'll just write you a list of like the must-see episodes.
Yeah, if you could just like make a supercut.
I'll just write you like a these are the ones you should probably watch. Crossovers must see. Like they are, without a doubt. Some of like the crossover stuff is just like it's really weird because there's a point where Cisco on his own, no, he goes with Joe to Starling. Like him and Joe just go to Starling and they're hanging out with, but they're not even hanging out with Arrow. They're hanging out with like some of the other characters. But Laurel, who is the Canary now, like it's just like he gets a signed picture of her like in costume, and he's just so happy. And like Cisco Ramon is one of like my favorite characters in shows.
Now see, he did come across as a little bit annoying for me.
He might be, but like there's a really nice touch that just is like a run through of the show. That you don't like Big Bang Theory either.
No.
But you know that Sheldon wears Flash t-shirts a lot.
Oh yeah, he wears Big Bang Theory. Yeah, I've seen that doing the rounds.
And I was just like, that's a really nice little touch that I bet no one intended to do. It just kind of happened one day. Or it's just someone in the costume department being like, man, do you know what would be funny that no one will notice? The internet noticed.
Oh no, they fully knew that people would notice. That's not a cynical decision, I don't think. As it were, come together. There where they all realise they say, look, we all lost something that day. Let's do what we can for this city now that we've all gone through this trauma, which is kind of it was the explosion, the huge disaster to the city, and the effects that it has on people. It's you can't have in modern day entertainment, you can't do that sort of catastrophic sequence without invoking 9/11. So I do think it was very much the same sensibility of, look, let's band together after this disaster. And I thought it was actually handled quite nicely. The way that they matey boy in the wheelchair, what's his name?
Harrison Wells.
Yeah, he loses his legs, and Caitlin loses her fiance, and I just thought Joe loses his partner, but well, apparently he loses his partner anyway. I just thought it was a nice, unifying thing. It's like Coulson's death in the Avengers.
Yeah, they need to address that at some point, and I think like they're getting to the point that they might actually be starting to address like the whole. So Coulson's not dead.
Well, I do find that a strange move, because his death is the entire reason they get together. So when they discover that actually Fury's been keeping him from them, I feel there might be some fallout from that.
Maybe like a Civil War. Maybe.
Oh, wouldn't that be cool if that was the... We're gonna stray back into Marvel. This happened on the last podcast a lot. Everything came back to Marvel.
Yeah. But on my last thought on The Flash is that there's one thing that I really like, which is the casting for Flash's dad, for Barry's dad, which I'm pretty sure is the guy who played the Flash in the 70s.
Is he really?
I'm like so sure that I'm just double checking in case I'm wrong.
That would be a nice touch.
He previously played Barry Allen in the 1990 show.
That's a nice touch. That's like they got Lou Ferrigno to do some of the voice work for the Hulk in the Avengers. That's the same sort of thing, because he played Hulk in the Incredible Hulk show.
Yeah, I like little stuff like that. Is great.
Yeah, we're big fans of that sort of thing.
Big fans of little touches like that. And at some point in The Flash, Mark Hamill reprises his role that he did in
the Trickster.
Yeah, he reprises the Trickster as like it's been a while, but I'm back sort of role.
I have just remembered you texted me or like sent me a message telling me about a specific line that he has, and going back to bad writing, and I was just like, no, that's ridiculous. He like doesn't he say something like "I'm your father" or something?
Yeah, he does. He gets to say the line. I remember sending that text. Now I was just like, man, this is the best thing ever.
And my response was, "No, this is the worst thing."
But it's so great.
Shall we co-pilot onto the next? I don't know what that was. Should we talk about baking bread?
Yes, let's.
Okay. So, Breaking Bad. That was a thing that happened. It was like, it didn't really get big over in this country until the end, did it? I remember the first time I saw it, like in a newspaper or in the public consciousness over here in the UK, was the start of series 5, the final 8 episodes.
Yeah, which is weird because I picked it up from season 4. I watched the first 3 and then season 4 was ready.
I think that's similar to what I had done because it was a strange.
I picked it up halfway through season 4 then, because I definitely picked it up like 6 months after you did.
Oh yeah, because I was trying to convince everyone for ages that it was the best thing on telly.
Yeah.
Because I remember it was like I think it must have been Christmas 2009 or something. I got series 1 on DVD and I never watched it.
Did it just sit there, just untouched?
Yeah, for ages. And then one night, Lisa and I just got the DVD. I was like, hey, we should try this. I've heard good things. And then I watched the entire first series in one night. And then a few weeks later, I watched the entire second series in one night. So yeah, I quite liked it.
It was one of those like perfect binge material. Because like the end of every episode leaves you sort of going like, but what happens next?
Well, I think it's beyond that. You can go more granular than that. I think at the end of every scene, you want to know. I don't think there's a bad scene in that show.
No, I don't. I feel like, especially with the pilot, just like some of especially rewatching it now that you've seen the whole thing.
Yeah.
That episode is so different. Like when I watched it first, I was just like, man, this looks cool. Like I'm totally down. It's got a really cool like premise idea. Like the characters seem aight. And then, but watching it now, looking back on it, you're just like, man, don't do it.
You're just looking at. You have no idea what you're all gonna go through. But it tied up so well for a show that didn't really. Apparently, they didn't know exactly where it was all gonna go until the last few episodes. Like even the thing where like they had the rice in pretty much from the first series all the way to. Oh no, it's from series. No, it is. It is from they get the rice in the first series, don't they? And then they just don't know what to do with it until the last episode.
Nothing's done with it until right at the end. It's crazy. But it was like stuff...
From talking about the last episode, let's go back to the very first episode where it all began.
Yes.
So, who doesn't know the story though? I mean, Bryan Cranston, he plays a man he's a ridiculously overqualified high school teacher. He gets lung cancer, and in order to pay for his bills and to pay for his family after he dies, which we're told is imminent, he starts to cook crystal meth using his superpowers of super knowledge of chemistry.
It's pretty crazy.
Well, the first, the joke that everyone makes over here is that, well, it wouldn't work because he'd go to the NHS, he'd say, I have cancer, they say, it's okay, have some treatment, and they all live happily ever after.
Apart from Skyler, because she's a dick.
But she's not. I have this argument with people so many times. She is acting absolutely rationally to a man who is acting absolutely irrationally. At least in the sense that he shouldn't be doing it.
My sister floated an idea to me.
Go on.
Everything in Breaking Bad is Skyler's fault.
Because he gets cancer.
Walt doesn't smoke. Skyler does.
Oh, Lisa Allen, I salute you. That is brilliant.
Yeah, literally, like it's that line, and then you're just like, Skyler changes. I mean, I didn't like her that much anyway, because like she doesn't support Walt in what he's trying to do. She's not being a good wife. And
well, hang on. Doesn't support Walt in what he's trying to do, in terms of
build a
what?
crystal meth empire.
Well, you can give her that. I
Yeah,
mean...
no, I'll give her that. But it's her fault that he has cancer in the first place. So whatever.
That's a very, very interesting point. And if you watch the whole show with that in the back of your mind, I imagine you would. I would. Well, I imagine maybe I'd change my mind on Skylar, but I don't think she's. I mean, she's naggy and everything, but that's all dependent on the fact that you are trying to sympathise with a criminal. You know.
Yeah. But like the first episode sets him up to be like that guy that you just kind of, whatever he's doing, you're rooting for him. Like it sets him up because he's like, he goes to his own birthday party and is pretty much ignored for his stepbrother who's like just a successful DEA agent, like no biggie. Like he busts meth dealers for breakfast.
Yeah.
Well, most of them anyway.
Yeah. With one glaring omission.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's. I think the reason that you stick with Walt, because there are certain points over the course of the show that there was one specific point at the end of the 4th series where he does something where I actually thought, do you know what? Now he's the villain. But up until that point, what the pilot does so brilliantly is absolutely clearly show a man who is just he blends into the wall. He is just a grey man, but he's also a loser. Like even the fact that he has 2 jobs, one at the car wash where he is washing a student's car that gave him shit earlier in an earlier lesson. Just that okay, we'll automatically feel sorry for you because now we're on your side because we wouldn't want to be in that situation.
Yeah, like it's crazy, and just like there are so many points. Like it all comes down to what situation you're in when you watch this pilot. If you've seen it all before, like this pilot is foreboding as just anything could be.
Yeah.
Because like there's a scene like he's talking to the class, and like he says something along the lines of like he's talking about like chemistry and stuff, and he's just like, life is pretty much like growth, then transformation, and then decline. And I was just like, that is literally what the show's about.
Yeah.
Like those 3 words, just that's his arc of life, which is crazy.
You can actually pretty much pinpoint those. So the transformation takes you, from he's developing. He's trying. It's like he's trying.
Is that him going from, like, I'm a teacher to maybe I'll just make meth? That's cool, right? And it's like
but then he becomes the gangsters that he finds himself up against. So he overtakes Tuco pretty much. Like he first off he's scared of Tuco, and then he realizes, oh, I can be Tuco. And then the same with Gus, and it's like, oh, I can be Gus. And then once he's Gus, even Jesse's goes like, oh, do you know what? And there's that amazing thing where Jesse said he can't keep getting away with it, and then the decline is so sharp towards the end of the series when he has all the money and then he goes to living in that hut out in the sticks on his own.
And then just like the last sort of 8 episodes are just like that decline, and that decline is like a vertical line.
Yeah.
Like it's just like, oh, my wife's left me, boom. Like done.
But getting back to the pilot, I mean, it sets up the characters. It does set them up really well, but it doesn't represent how much they are all going to change. So at the start of the show, Hank particularly, I mean, obviously like Walter changes and everybody changes, but I feel the one who's the most drastic
just remains the same.
Well, he does to a point, but then up towards the end of the last series, I think he sort of steps up to the plate, where he's defending his mum and everything. But Hank is he's this, bullish, meat-headed jock, and he's, even at the party, he's like, hey, look at my gun, it's amazing. Here, Walt, hold this. Oh, aren't you ridiculous,
Which is weird, because like at the very first opening scene is Walt standing in a road holding a gun.
Yeah.
And like he looks like almost comfortable with it, but at the party he's like, guns, man, they're really heavy.
Yeah, he's. It's amazing when you look at him holding that gun, and then you cut to the end of the series where, he's done all this stuff. It is, it's one of the most perfect character arcs I've ever seen in any sort of story.
Yeah, because it's like there's that like half hour in point where it's just like a switch, and it's just a different wall.
Do you think it's the moment where he goes out the back of the shop and comes back in and kicks the shit out of the people that are taking the piss out of his son? Or is it before that?
I think it
is
might
it the
even
moment
be
when
sort of just like that, like, man, you have cancer. Like, it's just that moment, and he's just like, okay, yeah, I'm done. I'm done giving a shit.
He does accept it. He accepts it. Pretty obviously. Like, there's the sort of
it's like that slow
tone.
bubbling, like, okay, yeah, that's perfectly fine. How much is the treatment? Okay, yeah, that's fine. Just let me go home and talk to my wife. Oh, we're going shopping. Oh, look, there's this guy. And now
then suddenly, I'm going to die anyway. I might as well, I've got nothing to lose now.
Yeah, like that's the key to the show. It's like the first, maybe not even the first episode, the first series. It's just like that. I've got nothing to lose. Like, let's see what I can do.
Well, he doesn't. He's in a strange way. It's similar to superhero shows. Like, he has this secret identity, and the worst thing that could happen is if they found out who his family are. That's his sort of. Well, what he claims is his big motivations. Look, I'm doing this for my family. I'm going to protect my family. That sort of thing.
Yeah, but even like at the end of the pilot, like even Skylar doesn't recognize who he is anymore.
Oh yeah, there's that amazing scene, the brilliant scene right at the end when was it? Oh, because they try and have sex earlier in the episode, and he can't perform. He just can't do it. He goes out, he does all this dangerous stuff, comes in, he's like, right, come here.
Yeah, and she's like, is that you?
Like, is that even you? It's brilliant. Right, one glaring character omission would come with
how can we miss Mr. Pinkman?
He is phenomenal, isn't he? I think he's my favourite character in the entire show.
I think
he is
that's without he's like my favourite main character. There are some recurring characters that are great.
Yeah.
Like
Saul was particularly
like
good.
Saul's a great character. Didn't need his own show.
I gave up with that, which is, given how much I love Breaking Bad, to the point, I wrote my dissertation at university on Breaking Bad. I just gave up with that so quickly. It was ridiculous.
Yeah. I don't know, like, it was alright, but he didn't need his own shit. But there are some really, like, what Breaking Bad has is this way of making every character quite well developed, in like, regardless of how long they're on the screen for.
Yeah.
Like, they don't even need lines, and you get like a feel for the character. Like, which is weird.
It's it's skillful storytelling. That's what it is. If you can, do something without anyone saying a single thing. But with Jesse, the first time you see him, he falls out of a
window. Yeah, like
he falls out of the window in the meth lab, and that just says everything, doesn't it? That really sets up what he goes through in the show. He's trying to get away from the police and the drugs, but at every turn, something bad happens to him. Like, he goes. You could almost argue that he goes through more bad stuff than Walt does.
Yeah. Well, because
he's
Walt is the
disowned.
catalyst of all the bad apart from the stuff that Skylar caused. Walt is the catalyst for all of the bad negativity stuff in his life.
Yeah.
Like, if he... Well, it's actually all his fault, because if he didn't marry Skylar, he wouldn't be in this situation.
There's only so far you can go back, because then you could say, well, it's all Skylar's parents' fault if they didn't give birth to Skylar.
Yeah. Like, I mean, like, a lot of the stuff after sort of the point of, like, him snapping and being, like, starting on this road to, like, just destruction, everything after that point is his fault. Everything up to that fault, he's been a passenger in his own life. And then everything after that fault is him making the wrong choices, which is fine.
But then you still want him to get away with it until, there's certain things that he does that I think it's different for each person watching it, because you could, at the end of series 2, not his actions, but his inaction leads to some death.
It really ups his numbers, but
yeah, suddenly his kill count goes up. He's got a great KDR, but at the end of each series, he does something pretty horrific, like the things with the Lily of the Valley and Brock, and he leads to family members in dangerous situations and death. And but I think different people go off Walt at different points. My mum went off him very quickly because she hasn't finished it yet, but I think it was when he killed, or he helped, he set up with Hector to kill Gus. I think that she was actually, like, that wasn't the worst thing. That, in my eyes, that's not the worst thing he did, but Mum was like, yeah, no, you can't set up a bomb in a public place like that and get away with it.
Yeah. Like, there's... Like, weirdly, as important as all of the characters are to the show, the RV is important.
The RV is one of the best characters, and that says a lot.
That RV sees some shit.
And actually, one of my favourite episodes is, I can't remember which series, I think it's series 2, but the one where the RV just won't start and they're stuck out in the desert together. Because it's like the Fly episode, it's used a lot in TV shows. They call it the elevator episode, where you've got two characters, they're stuck in an elevator.
Where they've run out of money and can't afford to go to a different set. Let's be honest, that's what they are.
I don't think Breaking Bad ran out of money. I think towards the end their budget was something like $3.5 million an episode, and
which is crazy.
That's a lot of cheddar. But nice work if you can get it. So
yeah, but the RV it's so important. It's so iconic for the show, and it gets shot in it's halfway through 40 minutes ish in that they get this RV to go and make meth.
Yeah.
Which from the start of not the very start, where he crashes the RV, but from after that, it's a very quick turnaround of maybe I'll make meth. Maybe I should go buy an RV. Maybe I'll go make meth in the desert. It's just very rapid fire decisions that if he'd taken more time to consider, he'd have emigrated to the UK and got some treatment on the NHS.
Well, I don't know. Would that have worked? Because surely you'd have to qualify as being a... Well, you don't, do you? You don't have to be a British citizen to benefit from the NHS, do you? You just sort of have to be there. I don't know, actually. I don't know what the legislation is on who can...
I feel like there's a difference between accident and emergency and, hey, I'm here from America. By the way, can I have some drugs?
Well, don't Canada have the same system? Couldn't he just nip across the border?
I don't think the Aztec would go that far. To be fair, cars are a weirdly important part of the show. Every time there's a new car introduced, it's some character has leveled up, almost, until Skylar sees it and takes it away, and will blows it up. But the Aztec is such a shit heap. It just represents him as a character.
Well, and it keeps needing new parts, the new windscreen every sort of few episodes. It just gets broken.
Yeah. And then he gets... what does he get? A Chevy something Camaro, I think.
Doesn't he buy a Dodge for Walt Jr. and he goes and
he gets him a Challenger, but then that gets taken away by Skylar. Because she hates people being happy. Or showing off that they have money and can't explain it.
No, she's doing the sensible thing. For the most part, she doesn't act particularly badly until she starts having an affair.
Yeah, she's
Again.
rational and logical, and is everything that Walt needed her to be. Which is like, otherwise he'd have been caught so quick if he hadn't had her there going like, how are we going to explain to people how we bought champagne? You don't even have a job.
Yeah. But that's the problem with, Skylar, I think. She gets a bad rap, but actually... But now that your sister has said that it's her fault, that's really opened up some questions in my mind. That's brilliant. I really like that. So, would you... Because I spent a lot of time while I was watching it telling people that they had to watch it because it was compulsive viewing, and that culminated in pretty much all the people that we were at uni with, all our friends and that, we all sat around to watch the finale together. Do you remember?
Yeah, that was great.
That was it was quite, I found it quite moving because this show that I'd loved so intensely for such a short space of time. I mean, I think it wasn't even a year that I spent being a fan of the show before it ended. But there's something absolutely compulsive in watching that show, and it completely took over everything that entertainment. I remember like watching other shows and just being like, oh, it's just not as good as Breaking Bad. It was like when I played Dark Souls.
Matt, that's why you didn't like Arrow. Watching Breaking Bad.
Hey, you know why I didn't like Arrow? It's fucking Skylar's fault.
I bet it is. Like, her being in that good show. Like, it's all her fault, man.
God damn it.
She's the one who trapped Oliver Queen on that island. I knew it.
So I have said for a while now that it has been the best TV show I've ever seen. I don't know where it ranks on your sort of barometer of good TV, but it's quite high.
I mean, I don't know, I feel like we either watch the same amount or I watch more TV. I think I watch more shows regularly.
I think
than you.
You're a more regular viewer of shows. Apart from The Walking Dead, which you were a latecomer to.
I was, because I literally, I chose between either... Because I saw how many episodes there were of both Breaking Bad and Walking Dead. And picked one.
Yeah, I did the same, really.
I picked Breaking Bad and then went, well, that was really good. Better just not bother watching The Walking Dead now. And then I ran out of things to watch, so I watched The Walking Dead. And that was really good too.
So, yeah, I'd like The Walking Dead because I feel, for us it holds a bit more significance because it's the show that we've, particularly last series, we'd watch and then immediately start messaging each other like, have you seen it? Yeah, oh my god, it's so good. And like, to the point, I used to come around to your flat in Southampton and that was the plan, wasn't it? We were going to do the same thing as Breaking Bad. We would watch a finale together, but someone was still up at 2:00 in the morning and watched it anyway.
Did we still? And then we just watched it. I just watched it again.
Yeah, you watched it again.
And it was still great the second time.
In a lovely cyclical narrative, The Walking Dead started again yesterday. So once we've sacked this off, I'm gonna go off and watch that.
Oh yes.
Have you watched it yet?
No. I've been at work, man.
So have I. I've had my hair cut as well in the Anyway, this is sort of parish notices now. I feel we've strayed from Breaking Bad. So we're just about at the hour mark, so I think that wraps it up for the very first Co-Pilot podcast. What are we going to look at next week? Because it will be a weekly thing. We're going to try and keep this as weekly and as regular as possible, I think.
Yeah, it just depends when we have time to record. That's...
I feel this is more parish notices and admin.
We'll talk about that later afterwards.
Okay, fine. I was going to say if we just record a bunch of them, then we can just put them up. Anyway, so what are we going to be looking at next week?
Well, my pick was a show called Critical, which I've already seen the pilot for.
Okay, what's it all about?
It's an hour-long episode. Because that's a good length for an episode, and it's about like this ER room that's like it's like so super like over the top high tech, and like they deal with one emergency patient an hour, like a day, well, an episode, so an hour, but it's like it's in real time. So they have like that first like really important hour, and it's always like these weird trauma cases. And I'm pretty sure there's some character development that goes on, but I haven't seen any more episodes.
So it is a drama. It's not a documentary series.
Yeah, it's a drama.
Is it an American drama?
No, it's British.
Oh, is it? Okay. That'd be a nice counterpoint. It'd be nice to get some British representation in there.
Yeah, well, I think there's some there is some really good British TV shows.
I've actually started thinking that the majority of TV that I watch nowadays is actually British TV, like from my Netflix account anyway.
Yeah.
So
okay, like the tagline for the first episode is 60 minutes to save a life. The clock is ticking in this real-time medical drama set inside a state-of-the-art major trauma center. That's the tagline.
I do like the sound of that because as soon as people say hospital drama or anything to do with like casualty, always it and that Charlie, who's I think still in it, but
Charlie, it's that show's not great. Well, like it's good, but it's like one of those you have to watch regularly, otherwise you don't know what's going on.
Okay, I'm looking forward to that. I hadn't actually heard of it.
Critical has 13 episodes.
Okay.
Reviews of the first episode were predominantly positive.
Good.
With people preferred it to like the traditional medical dramas. I mean, stuff like House is Americans do hospital dramas better, but medical dramas last too long. I think they try and pack too much into one episode.
Didn't it? Yeah, I can understand it. Well, with Casualty, you'd go in with like a broken thumb and you'd come out dead.
Yeah, for the most part, that's how it happens. Yeah, but
so that's your pick for next week.
It's got a pretty solid cast as well. They seem to be.
Who are we talking?
It's got Lenny James, who is like he seems to be like the main character.
Is he a known guy? Is he unknown? Is this his first big thing?
He's known. Like he's like honestly you'd recognise him, but you won't be able to work out where you recognise him from. Because I'm looking at the list of stuff that he's done, and I have no idea. No idea where I recognise him from. Oh wait, I'm not looking at TV. Oh, he's in The Walking Dead. That's why I recognise him.
Shocker.
He's in Spooks. Oh, that's why I recognise him.
Oh yeah. Oh, we must have the pilot of Spooks somewhere down the line. You love that show.
It's not on the list yet.
More admin. We're showing too much behind the curtain, I feel.
Yeah, it's fine. Anyway, what was your pick? Because
thanks, Rich. Since you ask. Oh, you haven't heard of it at all?
I've heard of it, but I don't know anything about it.
Okay, so the one I've gone for is Penny Dreadful, which is it's a British-American horror drama series created for Showtime and Sky by John Logan, who also acts as executive producer alongside Sam Mendes. Now, Sam Mendes is a big name as far as I'm concerned because he directed what I feel like is the closest thing to a perfect film you can get, or one of them, with American Beauty. And it stars Eva Green and Timothy Dalton and Reeve Carney. Billy Piper's in it. Josh Hartnett's in it. And it's basically an amalgamation.
That's a pretty big name cast.
It is, and Billy Piper is actually doing quite a convincing Irish accent. She's actually fairly good in it. But it's the title Penny Dreadful. It's a type of fiction that was around sort of the Victorian era. So there's it's an amalgamation of
what I've seen of it. I've seen like a couple of stills, I think, and like, is it set in Victorian England?
Yeah. Yes, it is
has
England.
Elements set in it.
Yeah, no, I think it's London. I've only seen 3 episodes myself, but I watched the first episode and then immediately ordered the box set, which turned up the other day. So I will be watching that too. But it's an amalgamation of a lot of Victorian Gothic fiction. So there's elements from Dracula, from Frankenstein, from Van Helsing, from Jekyll and Hyde, cool. Dorian Gray.
Individually, I quite like those things. So
yeah, so imagine them put together. and it's not got Hugh Jackman in it, and it's not a terrible film. Because Van Helsing...
Because it's not a film.
Right, Van Helsing it's a strange one for me, because as a kid I absolutely loved that film, and it's what I think pretty much got me into being the huge horror fan that I am. I went back and watched it last year, and that film is shocking. So I don't know how it went from being this amazing piece of cinema in my mind to actually seeing it for what it is, which is just awful. But I always thought it was a really good concept. It was just the execution wasn't very good, and it does something really interesting with the Frankenstein storyline. But
so is it one of those things that like takes like older horror stories and so it's like Once Upon a Time but with horror stories?
Not quite. It doesn't do it in
not in the same sort of way as Once Upon a Time, but
no, it's not as segmented as Once Upon a Time, which pretty much focuses on a certain thing per episode. They do loop in and out.
Yeah, I mean, Once Upon a Time does manage to do that with like the sort of out of like the bits that aren't in the stories, the bits like in the village and stuff. And you're like, I can totally work out who that is. And then other guys just like, I don't give a shit who you are. Just I hope you die.
So next week expect hospitals and Victorian horror.
Oh.
So yeah, I'll chat to you again next week.
Yeah, it'll be good.
Thanks for listening, if anyone did, other than us listening back.
It's alright, man. And I'll listen to it twice. So you'll be like, oh,
yes,
one other person listened.
Yes. I'll force it upon family members. Look, we made a thing, like a terrible picture made out of pasta shapes, but
look, I
verbal.
did, Ma. Well,
so yeah,
next week it is.
Next week, Penny Dreadful and Critical. Say goodbye, Richard Allen.
Goodbye.
Goodbye, Richard Allen.